this edition of Poker Strategy on Card Player TV, we caught up with WPT champion and high-stakes heads-up sit-and-go specialist Olivier Busquet to discuss reasons for betting in poker.
So I think there are a few kind of main categories of reasons why you would bet in poker. One is, because you have the best hand and you want to build the big pot and you want to get paid, so for value. One is also as a bluff, where you think you can't win by showdown, so you're trying to make your opponent fold by betting. And then I kind of a subcategory would be to protect your hand. You don't necessarily, you're not positive that you have the best hand, but maybe you're confident and you think that your opponent has a decent chance of catching up to you. So you want to either charge him to catch up to you or at least get him out so that he doesn't realize that equity.
We asked Busquet what factors you should be considering when you're thinking of betting for value.
And there's really two main reasons when you're betting for value that you should be, or two main factors you should be considering. One is, can I get called by a worse hand, or is it likely that I'll get called by a worse hand? And then the second is, and I think this is especially important as your level of competition gets higher, is that are there bluffs that I'm essentially representing? Can my opponent put me on bluffs and therefore call? I think against less experienced players, it's less relevant because they're not thinking in those terms as much. But in general, I think it's always a good idea to consider. And that's also true when you're bluffing. The flip side is true. So when you're bluffing, you want to make sure there are a number of reasonable made hands that you can represent that your opponent can put you on to fold.
In addition to value betting and bluffing, some people bet for information or to protect their hand. Many pros find these reasons less compelling, however. We asked Busquet for his thoughts on the subject. Many pros find these reasons less compelling, however. We asked Busquet for his thoughts on the subject.
Yeah, I think, betting for information is not necessarily the worst idea. I think there are certain players, especially against certain opponents, who can effectively use that strategy. But I think if that's the only reason you're betting, it's probably not great. I think you can bet for information, also for value, also maybe to protect your hand. I think sometimes if you see players make huge overbets because they're afraid of getting drawn out on, that's just kind of an emotional reason, and you should probably try to stay away from that. I think you should, fear of getting unlucky is just kind of part of the game, and if you can't make good decisions with that fear, then you should probably play lower or not play or something. It's just going to be hard to play well if you're just afraid of getting unlucky. Unlucky is just, getting unlucky is part of the game, so you have to kind of deal with it.
Thanks to Olivier Busquet for his insight, and thank you for tuning in to this episode of Poker Strategy right here on Card Player TV.